Hi and welcome. You are here for Tipton's Parent Night. I am Lindsay Brandon with Lincoln Learning Solutions, and we are super excited to be spending some time with you tonight. I just wanted to let you know that because this is a webinar fashion, you are muted by default. I see right now we have a couple parents still joining, so we're going to give it a couple of minutes before we get started. There is a chat feature where you can type questions. So if you have questions as we're going through the presentation today, please just go ahead and type those in the chat. And if you have any questions, we'll be happy to either unmute you or we'll have you elaborate within that chat feature. So it is 6:03. We're going to go ahead and wait until 6:05 to see if any other parents jump on. We did have a couple of other registrations, and then we'll get started. Hi, welcome. We are just going to wait one more minute to see if any other parents jump on before we get started. And then we will be starting with the Lincoln Learning presentation for your school. Yes, I haven't started sharing my screen yet, so I will go ahead and get that started while we're waiting on others to pop on. And are you able to see my screen now? Perfect. Thank you very much for letting me know. Okay, it's 6:05. Just to let you know, you are muted by default. So if you have questions, please feel free to, there's a little hand feature. You can raise your hand or you can type the questions within the chat and we will unmute you or have you elaborate within the chat. And as we are going through, feel free to interrupt and ask questions if you have questions. And I'm going to go ahead and hand this over to Angela and Jessica, and they are going to get us started from the school side.
Hi, this is Miss Buzanowski. Nice to see you guys. They're here. We are going to be showing you our Lincoln Learning, with just our new virtual curriculum. And our teachers are using this to kind of supplement some of the work that they're giving to their kids. And it's directly shared through ClassLink. And it allows our teachers to give them assignments in all subject areas, plus also able to give them individualized assignments basically at the level that they are, so they can get things to help reinforce an idea or even actually challenge them in some areas. So this is what we are using for some assignments, and we just want to make sure that you're able to navigate through it, and if any of your kids need any help with it too, then hopefully this will help them as well.
Thank you, Ms. Buzanowski. This is Mrs. Gilbert, and yes, everything that Ms. Buzanowski said about what we have to share with you today, we knew after shutting down last spring that our teachers needed to have something readily available that they could access. We still want them to be super creative and the awesome teachers that they are, so that they can put together great quality lessons for our students. But we also felt that trying to reinvent the wheel virtually for them was really a tall task. And so we found this Lincoln Learning curriculum, and we're really excited because it's all digital already and another great resource for them to utilize. So we don't require all of our teachers to follow every single lesson and all of the content that's in here, but it is a resource for them. And as Lindsay will go through and kind of show you how to work through it with your student as your teachers are assigning those, just to give you an example, I know that with one of our teachers, she was really excited because then she could really spend a lot of time diving into a novel study with her kids, while also making sure that she was hitting those grammar standards and other essential skills by assigning some of the work in the digital curriculum through Lincoln Learning. So we were excited to find them. They are tried and true and have been successful through the years in doing virtual school for many students. So we're happy to have them tonight as a resource for you to just help make that school home connection even stronger. So thanks for joining us, and please make sure to share your questions so that we can help support you even more.
Thank you both. So as Mrs. Gilbert said, I am Lindsay Brandon with Lincoln Learning Solutions. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just show you some different tips and tricks on navigating through our system and give you some ideas of ways that you might be able to think outside the box and provide the responses to your teachers rather than maybe just a printout and a scan upload of a PDF. So we're going to go ahead and hop right in. When you're in our system, it's going to look something like this. This is the way that your student is going to see the content when they're logged in. Now your child, when they're logged in, they are going to have the classes that are specific to them. So any class that they've been assigned, you can see that this is a training environment for us. So as you can see, I have 6th grade and 1st grade and 2nd grade. You're probably not going to have that. That's okay. So a couple things to note when you're in here, and you are going to see that by clicking on the course, it's actually just going to take you right into that course. And then any of the items that your teacher has assigned to you are going to come up within this to-do list. Now, this is a training student, so please don't mind the fact that we have past due items and all kinds of different items. This is because we play in this area so that we can show people what it looks like. So you're probably only going to have a couple of items in this area, but this is a good place to guide you as far as the items that your teacher expects of your child to complete within this system. Now, in the activities section of the course, you are able to pop down in and you can see that there is a folder structure. So it might say week 1, it might say day 1, and then it's going to have some items underneath. So when you look within there, you can see that there are going to be some different items. Now, your teacher might have put into your child's classroom some items that are supplementary. So they might be items that your child's able to take a look at and really get a feel for the content, maybe look back over if they've learned the content already, but they just need to get a refresher. So you have all of these different items here. If it is an item that is due, so if the teacher has asked for your child to complete that item and turn it into them, it will have, and let me see, it will have an area where they can turn that into them. So if it is a Dropbox item, you can see that there's submission area in that. So if it is an item that they have to, so like I was saying, those worksheets, or if it's even a Word document that they have to complete, that would be something that would be completed and uploaded via this plus sign. So all your student would need to do is click on the plus sign and then either attach a file from their computer or from their Google Drive. So you always have those options. They can even write comments to their teacher if they have anything aside from an upload to provide. So a lot of times teachers will accept those comments as responses. So let's say that the worksheet that we're looking at, so let's say that this particular worksheet, if it was a multiple choice worksheet and it was 1 and A and 2 and B, then they could actually type their responses right within the response comment area. So that's always an option. And I'm going to show you a couple of other options as far as ways that you could provide responses to your teacher rather than just in that upload form. The other type of assessment that they might find is you might find that there are some assessments that are online. So if your teacher assigns you one that's an online test, it's going to have a start button. So your student would just click on that start button, and by clicking on that, then they could just click through, and this would take them right through that assessment so that they could complete it before turning it in. When they are all done, there'll be a place where it says submit all answers at the end. So those are going to be the two most common that are going to have to be turned into the teacher. And again, that will show up in your to-do list because your teacher will be telling you if that's something that they want to have given to them. If we go back to our homepage, so anytime you're in the system, if you click that home button, it will take us right back home. You can see that on each of the course cards, there is an area for activities, which is where we were just at. There's also a grade book. So you could click into the grade book. Ms. Buzanowski and Mrs. Gilbert, are the teachers inputting grades in this system, or are they only inputting them in the ClassLink system?
Our Ms. Buzanowski might be able to add on to this too. So right now our teachers are kind of keeping grades in multiple locations. So grades are in Google Classroom, but ultimately they will be in PowerSchool. Our report cards are developed out of PowerSchool. They also may have some in here. So Ms. Buzanowski, I don't know if you know of any teachers that have them in this system.
I have not heard of any that do, because a lot of them, like when you were talking about the PDF features and things like that, instead of just having worksheets, a lot of them are taking those, if they're using them for support and resources, are putting them on Google Classroom. So a lot of them are being graded that way. And then of course put into PowerSchool as the final one.
Okay, perfect. So with that being said, you may not find grades for your student in this area, and that's okay. So then that's when you would want to refer to your PowerSchool. That's when you would want to check in with the teacher if you're not seeing the grades that you think should be there. Usually, you know, those grades are updated at an interval time, and at the end of those quarters, semesters, trimesters, you'll see those grades. But even though you might not see grades in this area, if you click on activity as a parent, this is a great way for you to keep track of the items that your student is doing when they're in these online areas. So if you know your student had some homework to do or had an assignment due within this area, and you wanted to make sure that they got through that assignment and that they were working through that and doing what they needed to, you can actually click into the activity area of a gradebook. Within that activity area, you're going to see that I can see each time my student has clicked into an activity and the amount of time that they spent in that activity. So you can see that my student clicked into the Counting by Ones Read It, and he was in there for 12 seconds. So this is a great way to kind of keep track of the amount of time that your student is spending on an object, so that you can make sure that they are actually working through them and not just saying, hey mom, I'm going and I'm working in my bedroom, and they're not actually working on their assignment. So it's a great way to just kind of check in and make sure that everything's being completed. So let's go ahead and navigate back home. So those are going to be the main points within the system. There is a way for you to see anytime a student has submitted an item or gotten a grade within this system. It sounds as though you're not using this system for that purpose as much though. So I don't know how beneficial it'll be, but you can go up to the settings of your child's course. And when you click in and you click on their avatar up in the corner and click settings, you do have the ability to set up notifications for yourself. So if they're getting feedback on an assignment, if they have any kind of discussion posts, maybe their teacher is posting discussion posts within Lincoln Learning, you can get a text message to let you know about that if they're submitting an activity, or if for some reason their enrollment status would change. You can get notifications on those. All you would need to do is either change the email address or add a phone number where you could get a text message for that. So that's always an option if your student is submitting items within Lincoln Learning. So let me just, real quick, I'm going to pull up a quick example for you. And I apologize because, of course, PowerSchool PowerPoint is not working for me the way that I want it to. Okay, so can you see my PowerPoint example?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Before we move on, it looks as though there's a parent that said they were never given a password for Lincoln Learning. I'm assuming that that would be their ClassLink password. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah, the students, no. I think with Lincoln Learning, didn't we determine that we couldn't do a single sign-on with them yet? So we gave out passwords to all of the
Okay.
students. So
Yes.
we will make sure that we get that password for you.
Thank
Are you
you.
talking, I'm sorry, and talking about the question, is it like for a password for a parent to get on or for the student?
So it was Michelle Hagan who put it in the question panel. And so if you would like, we can unmute Michelle and we could talk about it. Or Michelle, if you want to type more in the chat panel, that would be great.
I'm good with unmuting if you want to do that way.
Okay, sure. Okay, Michelle, I have unmuted you from my end. So if you want to unmute on your end, then you can go ahead and clarify for us.
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. I didn't. I'm probably the most confused parent ever. I didn't understand how Lincoln Learning was working. I was never given a password, so I haven't even been able to get in. I've seen it on the Chromebook while I'm looking through.
Mhm.
Okay. So
But
it's
there's like a
possible that,
key. I
yeah,
apologize. What was that?
I'm sorry. It's possible that your teacher hasn't assigned work through it just yet. It is new for all of the staff, so some staff started right away assigning work through it, and others are still getting there.
Okay.
That's
'Cause I
why I'm
know,
thinking that maybe you don't.
Okay. Well, that's a little bit more reassuring because here I'm thinking, well, he's doing work out of this app, and I have access. I don't even have access to it. So
well, the access, there isn't actually like a parent side to it. It's just through a student app, but you can access it through using his password, so you can still see all of these things on it through his student app. So like
I
with Power School, there's like 3 different types, like a student, teacher, and parent. So there's only a student and teacher side to this. Is that what you're thinking about?
no. Because I when I log into his classroom,
Hmm.
it shows me the link for Lincoln Learning, but when I go to click on Lincoln Learning, it doesn't give me access to anything.
Okay. Yeah. So then,
There's a little key like up in a corner. So
okay, because
Okay,
that would.
I was
so
assuming it was
what
something
we
that was
can,
just locked.
yeah, so what we can do, Ms. Hagan, is follow back up with you, and we'll do a little bit more searching into that situation, and then make sure that you have everything that you need, and also follow up with your teacher on that.
I'm totally that parent.
No,
Sorry.
no, no. It's just that we're recording the training for training purposes for other parents too. So I don't want to cut you off. I want to be able to help you. So we'll definitely work with you on the side for that.
That's fine.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So as we are looking at the different ways that you can respond with items within the system. So and this goes the same for even if you're uploading this to a Google Classroom or to another type of system, these are great ways to kind of get around the fact that there are limitations whenever you're working with a PDF. So by design, all of the PDFs within our course are items that have to be downloaded and printed and then uploaded back into the system in some way. The reason behind this is, especially with these little guys, we want to make sure that they are developing fine motor skills in addition to the skills that they're learning on a computer. So when our curriculum was initially developed, it was developed for solely online schools. COVID-19 has definitely changed our school base a little bit in a really good way, and we've learned a lot of ways to adapt our curriculum. But that is why it was designed that way in the first place, because we wanted to make sure that we were providing students with some limits to the screen time that they had in an online environment, as well as the ability to build those fine motor skills that they would be building within a classroom. So when you find a PDF, you may find that you don't have the ability to print and then re-upload that PDF. So an example of a way that you could handle that would be, like you see on my screen, there's a lined paper here, and the student simply took the words, and instead of circling the word that was the verb, they just wrote it on a piece of paper. So this was a real life example with one of our employees. They gave their student access to the screen and said, okay, we don't have a way to print this. How would you do this? And so she simply just took the piece of paper and wrote down the answers. So that's always an option, is to adapt those PDFs. And I apologize for that. Here's another example. So you can see that this was a math worksheet. So it was 6th grade math, and the student was to write the number within the worksheet of the square units. So instead of doing it on the worksheet, they just wrote it on a piece of paper. So again, same type of example. The parent said, okay, we don't have access to print this. How would you do this? And so he just wrote it down on a piece of paper. And then like this, you can take a picture and then you can upload that picture. Or if your teacher accepts emailed responses, you can email the response. So there are a lot of different ways that you can turn those in without providing a complete printout, scan back in type of worksheet. Yet again, there's another example. So a lot of times in those younger grades, you're going to find that there are worksheets. So there are worksheets that require coloring of some sort. And this is, again, to build those fine motor skills. So you want to make sure that the student is coloring in and providing the response to the worksheet, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the same worksheet. So this particular worksheet asks the student to read the math rules with their parent and then color in the worksheet. So maybe the parent goes over the math rules with the student, and then they color a coloring sheet out of a coloring book that they have at home. So that's always an option. You always have that option. Another option would be to have them color within a system on the computer. So if your student has very good mouse control, or if they can circle, maybe the worksheet said color in 3 balloons and they just circle 3 balloons instead. So you always have those options. And this was just done in an online drawing program. So just like you would have on your computer, like Paint or something similar, you could just put that picture right into that system and then have the student do it within that system. So there are a bunch of different ways that you can handle those worksheet options. Now, when it comes to materials, we know a lot of times there are materials that are required within the system. And so students often will see, parents and teachers will often see those materials and think, oh, I don't have counters. Because typically, if you're in a classroom, a counter is going to be a specific item. However, small toys at home work great as counters. So you can see that in this particular lesson, the student used Legos. So it could be that this is 3, or it could be that each of these bars is 1. So it's really just a matter of working with what you have at home. Another similar example, so the little troll dolls were perfect for counting, and the student was even able to complete a math sentence using the troll dolls. So 2 plus 3 equals 5. And so they put 2 in the first group, 3 in the second group, and then 5 in the last group. So you can see that by utilizing the items that you have at home, you will be able to work through any type of context with the items that you have at home. Another thing is a lot of times in school, we have items that are particularly used for that purpose. So in young math classes, a lot of times we see what's called base 10 blocks. And base 10 blocks are going to be the ones and the tens and the hundreds. And so you can see that in this example, we used pieces of cereal, pretzel sticks, and Rubik's Cubes. And they worked perfect for the numbers that we were trying to represent. And so the students knew that the Rubik's Cube, man, I can't talk, was worth 100, where the pretzel sticks were worth 10 and the cereal pieces were worth 5. So it's the same type of thing. And if you don't have a cube at home, you could use maybe marshmallows to represent 100. I mean, you have a lot of different options when it comes to how you're going to utilize the items at home. So just things to keep in mind, things to work through as you are working through the different items with Lincoln Learning. So that is going to be the main parts of what we had to cover as far as thinking outside of that box and allowing yourself to think through the items and the items that we typically really focus on within Lincoln Learning. So Ms. Buzanowski and Mrs. Gilbert, do you have anything else in particular that you would like me to showcase or work through, or do you have any other particular questions that you would like to ask?
I think one of the main pieces that, and thank you, I think you did a fantastic job. Thank you for showing our parents that, how to use other resources at home. I think that's been one of the biggest challenges that we've experienced with parents at home is just, most everything is on the computer and, it's a lot of screen time. So showing how they can take the content that's on the computer and use what they have at home to help their students work through some of those things, I think is awesome. Another question clearly that has come up is just, the amount of use with this particular system and how it's working and being incorporated into the classroom. So we are going to follow up with our teachers on that and make sure that they have the level of support that they need as this is new to all of them. But I think, Lindsay, I don't know if you have the ability, if you went into a lesson, if you could click through just like one kind of like lesson unit where you can show like a watch it, a read it, a play it, a do it, something that just kind of gives them an example of what each of those, like how an actual lesson would flow if they were assigned it by a teacher.
Absolutely. So when you're looking at, and then we can talk about the items that are more the important focus, and then the items that are a little bit more supplemental in learning. So when you're looking at the lessons, if you click into them, you're going to see that there are multiple components that make up that lesson. We do have in our K-5 courses, we have what's called a teach it. And what a teach it is it's going to be kind of like a copy of the read it, and it's going to be a teacher character reading the item to your student. So what's really nice about this, especially if you have young learners or if your child struggles reading some of the content on the computer, this is a great option for them to be able to hear somebody else reading it to them. So if you click on the button and mine's muted by default. So you can see that I have a character teacher in the corner here, and he's reading this item to the students. So like I said, this is great for your young students. It's great for, honestly, sometimes I want to hear somebody else read something to me because I'm very much an auditory learner. So when somebody sits down and reads something to me, I'm going to learn more than if I only read it on my own. So this is just a great alternative to really give the students the meat and the potatoes of the lesson. It's going to give them that instructional text in the items that are really just the main components of the lesson. So those are going to be those teach it. In all lessons, you'll find that there's what's called a read it. So a read it is going to be the item that that teacher was reading to you. So you can see that these, you saw as he was reading through, he was asking the question next to this granola box. So it's going to be the same objects within this lesson that you're seeing in the teach it. So they're really kind of an either or. The biggest difference is that teach it is going to be read to the student, where the read it is going to be an item they can go through on their own, and they're able to click through the different items. It's going to be more interactive. They're going to have the ability to work through these. Now, you might notice that when you're in this screen, especially if you're working on a Chromebook, it seems as though this is small and it's difficult to see all of it in some of the lessons. If you are in a Windows screen and you hit the F11 button, it will expand the screen. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Every time I do this, so on our computers, our Wi-Fi button is also F11. And so every time I go to show this, I forget to hit the function button and I turn my Wi-Fi off. So let's try this again. So if you click in the screen and you hit that F11 button, or if you're on a Chromebook, it looks like a rectangle with 2 lines on the outside, and typically it's right above the number 5. So if you hit that button, you can see how it expanded the whole screen. So now, if you were having trouble seeing those smaller items, if they were being cut off and you weren't able to see all of them, by clicking on that full screen view, you will be able to see all of them. And then you can see if I just scroll up towards the top, I'm going to get an X button, and I can just click up there and I should be able to close that out. Or you can hit the escape button and it will also take you out of there. And my mouse isn't working. So yeah, sorry about this. Okay, so typically that works. My mouse is on an uneven surface and it is not working for me, so I do apologize. So whenever you click on the, so then we'll go to the play it. The play its are going to be games that are inserted within the system. And these are going to be just ways for the student to play through. It's going to give them the ability to work through the different items, give them a different kind of feel for the same type of material so that they can learn it in a different way. Practice it and show it or apply it are going to be items where the student can begin to practice and demonstrate that they are learning the items within the course. So it's going to give them the ability to work through those different items so that they can begin to showcase what they're able to do. And a lot of times those will be worksheets, but the practices and the show-its are not items that are typically meant to be turned in. So if it's not something that needs to be turned in, this is a great way for you. So you can see right in this worksheet, we're counting marbles. I apologize. So this is a great way to have the student just point to the screen and say 1, 2, 3. There are 3 red marbles. Or it's a great way to incorporate, maybe you have Fruit Loops at home, and so you give them 3 red Fruit Loops and 2 yellow Fruit Loops and 5 green Fruit Loops, and they have to count the number of Fruit Loops instead of the number on the screen. So again, ways to incorporate items that you have at home into the same lesson. So like I said, that's going to be like the practice it, the show it, the apply it. Those are all going to have items that you can work through. A watch it is going to be a video. So these are either going to be videos that our media team has created, like this one that you can just simply click on, or they're going to be items that take you to a Khan Academy website. And even if they take you to Khan Academy, it's going to be right within the system, and they're going to be able to go in and watch that. And it's going to just provide a different type of learning for the student. So again, like that teach it, some people learn better when somebody's talking to them and explaining to them. And so if your child's one of those learners, this is a great way to add extra layers to what they're learning in that particular lesson. So the really important items to focus on are going to be those teach it or read it, and then they're going to be those practice it or show it or apply it. Those are going to be the ones that are going to kind of be important to really work through and make sure that your student understands. Those watch it, those play it, those are going to be items that your student can work through and watch and play and learn and interact with the curriculum, but it's not going to be something that's going to be the main focus, because again, those main focuses are going to be those pieces that really contain the majority of the content. Then most of the time, your assess it are going to be the ones that you have to turn into your teacher. And we'll eventually find one. Here we go. So you can see I've already turned this one in because I have that green check mark. So when you're in Lincoln Learning, if you get a green check mark, that means you've already turned in the item if it's an assessment. If it's a read it, teach it, practice it, show it, apply it, then you're going to get that green check mark simply because you've spent the amount of time required on the particular item. So if we click into that assessment, you can see there's some items here. It gives me some ways to kind of start thinking. So as the student, they're going to start thinking about things. They're going to see there's some things that they need to do prior to completing that worksheet, and then they're going to complete that worksheet. And this is where you'll have the ability to complete the worksheet on a piece of paper or complete it in a different fashion and then turn that into your teacher, whether it's through Lincoln Learning or Google Classroom or another avenue. When you turn that into them, that is going to provide you with the ability to turn in some item for your teacher based on the worksheet that's in this lesson. So those are going to be the main elements and the way that Lincoln Learning is set up in that structure format. Do we have any questions on the structure of the content or on anything involving that content?
I'm sorry, my dog is going crazy, but I just wanted to say thank you. That was really great. And, I hope that, the parents that are watching this now and that watch this in the future can see as our teachers are able to use this content, it's definitely thorough. It definitely gives multiple modes for students to practice and learn some of the content that they need to be learning. So even if it's supplemental assignments and lessons that are assigned, we see this as really beneficial for our students. So as I said earlier, we're growing with it. It's new to all of our teachers, as it is new to parents and students as well. So there's no perfect or, I don't think anybody is really behind in using this right now. It's just we're getting started and kind of moving forward.
Absolutely. And it takes time. It takes time to adjust. And just like I said in the beginning, we're even adjusting from the content development side because we're seeing it being used in so many different ways. So we've learned as much from your schools as you have learned from us as we've been working through these systems. So we appreciate your feedback, and we appreciate the ability to be able to support you in this way.
I do know as last year, going out of the classroom and going online, that once I saw this program, that if I wish this existed before when it started, that I wish all of us had, because it goes directly with exactly what the students need to know for their grade level and gives many different options. I know it's a one place area to go instead of kind of where we were trying to make sure everybody got um, all the different lessons and things they needed for the rest of the year. And it seemed like it was all over the place. And using this, it's a lot easier to keep it in one place.
Yeah, that's good to know. And I think that was our goal from the content development standpoint. It was very much our goal to provide a well-rounded curriculum that was going to provide students with the ability to complete all of their work at once. So we're so happy to hear that you feel that way as well. And we are glad to continue to support in any way that we can when it comes to both teachers and parents and students really beginning to learn the content and the systems. And we understand that it does take some time to get to that point. So we're happy to work through that with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I hope that if you have questions, please share them, but it doesn't have to be through this. You can definitely reach out to us through Class Dojo. I know tomorrow we have administrative office hours at 9:30, so you can jump on that as well. We really are doing our best to just try and support our parents as much as possible and working through all of the new stuff that we're doing this year. So thank you so much. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you, Ms. Buzanowski. And thanks parents for joining us tonight.
Yes, thank you. And I will be getting the recording out to you, Mrs. Gilbert, and Ms. Buzanowski, and then you can share that in the manner that's appropriate for your school. So thank you for allowing us to be part of this and for sharing some information regarding Lincoln Learning.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Bye. Have a good night, everyone.
Yep, thank you. Have a good Halloween, everyone.
Yes, happy Halloween.